I'm Quinn Murphy, and this is In My Chair.
Brian Boome is an award-winning writer, poet, screenwriter, and Leroy Irvis Fellow, and instructor in the writing program at the University of Pittsburgh, where he earned his MFA. He's been a finalist in the Moth storytelling competition and won the grand prize in Carnegie Mellon University's Martin Luther King Jr. Writing Awards. His first book, Punch Me Up to the Gods, won the 2021 Kirkus Award in Nonfiction. He lives in Pittsburgh. PMUTTG is one of my favorite books, and I highly recommend it to everyone. Brian, thank you for being in my chair.
Thank you so much for having me, Quinn. It's a pleasure to be here.
Do you like the PMUTTG?
I do. I haven't heard that before. I think I've seen it hashtag before, but I was like, what the hell does that mean? But now I get it.
I thought I made it up. It almost reminded me of like a boy band, you know? So this has been an incredible year for you.
It has been quite the year. Like I didn't really expect any of this. Like I have to be honest. Like I didn't even know that I was writing a book until I think we were in the middle of it.
In the middle of the pandemic.
In the middle of the pandemic and in the middle of the book, like the way that I got here is sort of unconventional. So I didn't start out to write a book, but I'm so happy that I did, and I can't wait to write more.
Well, what did you start out to do?
Well, this book started off in a rehab facility. I had gone to a place called Greenbrier for my drug and alcohol addiction. I was kind of given an ultimatum, that either you go to this place or, we're not going to talk to you anymore, like by my friends. So I went there, and my plan was, I'm just going to stay a couple days, to just shut everybody up. But, after I was there for a little while, I kind of recognized that, maybe I needed to be there. So this book sort of started off as me just writing in rehab to sort of, unburden myself. I had a roommate who just snored really loudly. So I was just up all night.
From that Coke addiction.
I know what that's like. And I just was up writing, and, I was just writing stories because that's what I used to do when I was a kid. And there's not a whole lot to do in rehab at night. So that's how it started.
So you hadn't written since you were a kid?
I hadn't really written anything since I was a kid.
Wow.
When I was a kid, I used to write all the time. And then my cousin told me that it was a faggy, that's his word, thing to do. So I stopped, and I didn't start up again until I went to rehab.
The thing that I loved about this book is, I don't know, there's something always when you're reading something that can't help but be a little narcissistic. And I connected to a lot of things. I don't know if it's just being gay, like anything about dealing with the bus after school or a locker room situation. I was like, oh my God, it brought me personally right back. But the other side is that a lot of it was not my experience. And I was just as interested and just as moved by the parts that weren't my experience. I'm not Black. I didn't grow up in Ohio. I don't know what that dynamic is like. And I think that this book, because it's so specific and true to you, that it actually is for everyone.
When I started writing this book, when I was sort of, when I got to the place where I admitted to myself, okay, this is going to be a book, I remember consciously thinking, well, I'm going to write a book for other Black gay men, for Black gay young men, as sort of a cautionary tale, do not be the way that I was, be different. That was when, I was writing it. I had a very specific idea as to who I thought could maybe benefit from it. But in the aftermath, after the book has come out, and after a lot of people have read it, I have realized that, the feelings and experiences that I had, were not unique to me as a Black gay man. I mean, the sort of overarching sentiments of the book are for everybody. I've gotten really nice notes from people from all different backgrounds who have told me, yeah, I certainly related to that. I mean, who can't relate to, shame or making a fool of yourself, or, falling in love with the wrong person, or feeling, ugly, or feeling low in yourself. I mean, lots of people can relate to that. So, when I started off, I thought, well, I'm going to write for a specific group of people, but to my surprise, many people have related to the text.
You have a lot of important topics in this, from parenting and race, gender, homosexuality, socioeconomic issues. Was that just because that's who you are and that's what you know and wrote about? Or did you have some kind of overlaying thought that you wanted to touch on these topics?
I think that, when I started writing these stories in rehab, I sort of wrote on a theme. Like, I wrote about why I thought I ended up in rehab. And I think the overarching reason that I ended up in rehab is shame. There were so many things that I was ashamed about. You mentioned socioeconomic issues, and in this country, if you're poor, it's seen as a character flaw. And I was so very much ashamed of having no money when I was young. I was very much ashamed of a lot of things. So, I was just writing to this theme, like what are the things in my life that have sort of ended me up in this place where I just love to be high all the time. And so I think that's kind of what the narrative, swirls around, this idea that you are not good enough the way that you are on any level, whether you think that you're ugly, or you think you're dumb, or you think, I mean, our culture is sort of built to make you feel less than, at all times. And that's what I was writing about.
Right, because you, not to oversimplify, but other than gender, you really had a lot against you from birth, right? You're Black in America, you're gay in America, and you don't have wealth or even enough money. So
Right.
Thinking about that, it's like this is something that I think about. Like, you are a very intelligent, smart person. You won the spelling bee. You're obviously like a great writer. When I read Hillbilly Elegy, like DJ Vance like had these incredible SAT scores and got into Yale and whatever. What about the people who were like, myself, who might have been like special ed adjacent, or the people who don't have a special talent or skill? What happens to them?
I don't know. I don't know that anybody, I mean, this urge that we seem to have to compare ourselves to other people, I think, is a driving force in why so many people are unhappy. I just read something about Instagram and how, young women are just feeling so horrible about themselves these days, because of Instagram. But it's always been the case that we compare ourselves to other people, and oftentimes we feel that we come up short, and so we do all these things, and then we learn how to hate ourselves because of it. So, I don't know that I would go into it, saying that somebody who didn't win the spelling bee is somehow deficient, or somebody who doesn't have this amount of money, or these clothes, or these looks, or this weight, or this skin tone. I mean, it all feels very manufactured and very detrimental to just being able to live and enjoy your life. So I wouldn't make those comparisons. You just sort of live your life in a way that makes you happiest. You don't have to be, spelling bee guy, or, you don't have to be anything other than the thing that you want to be, that makes you happy. Because let's face it.
But even if that thing is going to lift you out of poverty.
Well, I mean, poverty isn't necessarily like, again, we think about it in these ways that, somebody is less than or more than or whatever, I just say, find a level in life that where you're comfortable and you're happy and that you have enough for you. And that is going to be good enough.
Do you think you had to go through hell to get to this place where you're saying those things to me?
Well, I mean, on the spectrum of misfortune, in this world, I don't know if I would call what I had to go through hell. Hell is different, I think, for everybody. I think I went through some hard times. I think I went through some self-inflicted hard times. I think I've also probably, made other people go through hard times. I have just merely had a life that all of us have. Where sometimes you're up, sometimes you're down. But
No, but reading your story, I hear what you're saying, and I think it's like a very honest place to come from. But I mean, not everybody had to go through what you had to go through. I don't think it is fair. I think I would be really fucked up if I had to have some of the challenges that you had in your life.
Yeah, but I mean, life is not fair. But I also think that it's important for people to be able to tell their story, in terms of, okay, so this is what I went through. And as you said, as somebody who didn't go through that, you learned from, my experience. That's kind of what it's about,
Right.
I have friends who are women who tell me what they have to go through and have had to go through in their lives. And I'm like, I can't even imagine. I have a friend who, she worked at night, or she got off work at night, and she would call me every night, like right when she got off work. And it was just this sort of regular thing that we did. Like, she would be getting off work, and we would chit chat, and then she would get in her car and we would chat for a little bit. And one day she told me, the reason that I call you every night is so that I don't get attacked. If I get attacked, in the parking lot, I want you on the phone to be able to say I got attacked, or to be able to call someone or help or get help to me. That's just something that I would never think of,
And you're
as a
also
man.
like, well, okay, so I'm completely replaceable. I'm just literally 911 on the other end. I'm just kidding. And that
Well,
ended our friendship. But I hope she's getting home safely at night.
we would have wonderful talks. I just didn't know that it served
Right.
this other
Right. I
purpose.
understand.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, everybody has their thing, and this is my thing. And, I'd like to think that I told, stories in such a way that it was engaging enough so that other people who maybe didn't have that experience, or who did have that experience, can identify. You can either learn something, or you can see yourself in these stories.
Is it a sad book?
I don't think so.
Really?
I don't think so. I think, there are certainly things in that book that are unfortunate, but some of those unfortunate things are kind of funny, some of those things are definitely things from my perspective that I've learned from. I've heard people say that, it made me cry, but I've also heard people saying it made me laugh, hysterically. And I think that it is, these things are all in the past, and there are things that I learned from, and I'm still here. So, how can it be sad?
One of the things that I really got out of reading this book was about being a Black child in adolescence, and the shift to being what you called Black boys don't get along boyhood, before being seen as fear from white people. I got the feeling that it was kind of known even in your community, in your household, and that part of the parenting was to prepare you, almost in a loving way, is to be out in the world and be seen as a Black man in America.
Yeah. I mean, I think Black parenting is hard because, while you want your children to grow up to be open and loving, I think Black parents have the extra duty to also be warning their children about what's out there, and it's true. Black boys don't get along boyhood, and Black girls don't get along girlhood. We are seen in this society as adults far earlier on than our white counterparts, and we cannot just sort of do the same things that white children do a lot of the times. I don't think Black children are afforded the luxury of, the folly of youth. Our mistakes are seen as criminal, whereas, I think it's much more lenient on the end of being a white child. Now, that also is dependent upon socioeconomic status as well. Poor people generally are policed. Black poor people, I think more so, but it's one of the unfortunate things about our culture.
So what is sacrificed when you're growing up like that? Like what does that do to you that might stay with you as an adult?
I don't know if anything is sacrificed. I just think it's, you just learn something that your counterparts don't have to learn. I don't know that, I think
you don't think
maybe
something's lost by not being able to be a youth or have that, I don't want to say innocence, it's the wrong word, but being able to express and stretch out on being a child for as long as possible. You don't think there's any repercussion of that?
I think that there's people who don't see you as youthful or see you as a child lose out. I don't know. I don't know. It's hard to sort of gauge, like, did I lose anything for having to learn early on that, how this culture sees me? I don't know. Because you said it's a loving thing that your parents do for you. If they didn't do it for me, I probably would be in a lot more trouble than I am, or than I was, So I don't know. I don't know if anything's lost. I don't really have an answer for that.
So you also used the storytelling through Tuan, who was, was he a toddler?
Yeah, he was probably
toddler age. I don't have kids, so I'm not always knowing what the terminology is.
I have no idea how old children are. Like, I see them and I'm like, oh, it's a little child. Oh, it's a bigger child. I don't know, but
they're only there to make you feel old. And you're like, oh, you're an adult now. I thought I was still 25.
Exactly. He was definitely a toddler. Yeah.
And is Tuan a representation of you? Like, why did you choose to add him in and tell the story through him?
Well, he's definitely a literary device. I chose him, and as I watched him, I don't think he was necessarily a representation of me personally. I think that he sort of represented Black boyhood, and the sort of push early on to instill this idea of masculinity into him. So I think he was probably symbolic of Black boyhood in general in America.
When you're kind of told from very early on that you have to shake it off or toughen up or don't cry, what does that do to you in your relationships in life? Is that something that somehow prohibits you from experiencing the full spectrum of emotions?
I think so. And I think, it's the sort of, our culture's view of what masculinity is in general. I think that men are shamed out of feeling deep emotions, out of processing deeper emotions. I think that we are encouraged to, pretty much only show anger, and not be able to deal with some of the more hurtful things that happen in life. Rejection, for instance, or a low self-image. I think that, as a human being, and as I say in the book, like, you are entitled to feel the full spectrum of humanity. But what we do, I think, with our boys is we tell them that there are so many things that they are not allowed to feel or not allowed to express. And yes, I do think it does stunt the growth of a human being to do that.
Is it weird that I'm white and asking you all these questions about the Black experience?
It is sometimes weird, when I'm talking to white people. about it, because you feel slightly examined in a way sometimes. But I try to. I also have a book, so I want to talk to people about the book. It's not weird. I try to look at it as a conversation, as a listening and learning opportunity for both parties involved. But I've been on book tour for a while now. I've had some people ask me some really bizarre questions.
Yeah.
So I don't know that it's weird. It's just, I think everybody should be having a conversation about these things. I will, there are some questions that I'm just like, well, that's kind of a dumb question. I'm not going to answer that. But for the most part, I enjoy having conversations with people about writing.
Yeah. So you wrote in the book, I found like a common theme of just wanting to feel acceptance from, kids, from your boy best friend, from your father, from, the white people at the school dance. What would it have meant for you to get acceptance as a kid from those people? And is that something that you still seek out?
I don't so much anymore. I've gotten a lot of really hateful emails.
Really?
Of course.
From the book?
Yeah, I think that people. There are always going to be people who are racist and homophobic, and and who are very much willing to tell you so. I think that had that happened a long time ago, I would have been crestfallen. But now I just delete them and roll my eyes. Acceptance is a big theme in the book. Like, I thought that being accepted was the same as being loved, and that's just not the case. I thought that being liked was the same as being loved, and that's not the case. What would it have meant if those people had accepted me? I think I would be a completely different person. I don't know that I would have grown in the ways that I have, or the ways that I believe that I have.
Do you remember? I'm so sorry. I just want to ask,
yeah.
Do you remember wishing you could be the moment, or around the time when you wished you could be anything but what you were, to feeling like, I'm happy about who I am?
Well, I haven't quite gotten there yet.
Meaning, like, I remember writing a very dramatic, crying, like, journal entry my freshman year in college, being like, I'd rather be morbidly obese than gay. If I could be anything else, this is the curse of my life. To legitimately now being like, I'm so happy that I am, and wouldn't want it any other way.
Yeah, I mean, I'm there now. I can't imagine being anybody else, or I don't remember a moment when that became clear to me. I think it's just been gradual over time, and also I've just learned how to not be so hard on myself, just to maybe even relish in the things about myself that are good every once in a while.
But does that work, Brian? Or do you wake up now and you're just like, oh, I got that. I figured that out. I'm no longer hard on myself.
No, it's a thing where I start to be hard on myself, and then I have to say, stop, stop. One of the things I learned in recovery is to just stop and take an inventory every once in a while of what you have, what there is to be grateful for. And, I have a lot of things to be grateful for. I have good friends. I have, a place to live. I have food on the table. I mean, just the little things. I find that when I start spinning out about how I hate my life, it's usually because I'm not even recognizing the things that I already do have. Or I'm comparing myself to somebody who I believe has more or better than I have. So, when I get to that point,
this comparison thing is big.
Yeah, it really is, and when I get to that point, I try, I don't always succeed, but I try to stop and be like, Brian, what are you doing? Like, just calm down. Like, you have a lot to be thankful for. You have a lot to be grateful for. I'm healthy. I've just learned to maybe stop and appreciate the little things a bit more.
Did that come from writing the book?
It partially comes from, being in rehab and going to meetings and doing therapy. And, those things definitely played into me feeling a little bit better about myself. I think everybody should go to therapy. I think everybody should.
I went for like 8 years. I agree.
Yeah, it's
and I'm always like one foot on a banana peel from going back.
Yeah,
Lexapro has helped, but
yeah, definitely. I still go. I still have my anxiety issues. I still have my depression issues, but for the most part, I'm able to get up and get moving, and that's a blessing in and of itself.
Yeah, I don't know why what you just said made me think of, when you got home from school. I don't want to give the book away. I don't know if I should say that, but anyway, you had the bleach. You were gonna take your life.
Yeah.
Not only the impact that has on you personally, but you must have. See, it's hard to ask this without projecting, and I probably am, but also thinking about what that did to you, to the people around you. What your mom must have felt so scared, and how do you forgive yourself for that?
I just know that I was in a pretty dark place. We all have things in our past that we regret. I mean, it would have ruined the rest of my mother's life. So I'm glad that didn't happen. Right. I think that particularly gay people have all come to that place where we feel so rejected by the world and the culture, that there are thoughts of suicide, unfortunately. I hope that it's getting better, out there for young queer people. And I think it is. But, I just know that at that time I was very lost, and I wasn't feeling there was no support, or I didn't think there was any support for somebody like me at that time. I now know better. And so if I should ever find myself in that sort of depressed state again, I know what to do.
You have the tools.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, also, I think a big theme for gay people is of our generation, or my generation and older, is this feeling of a loss, of lost time that you're never going to get back. Like when I was reading your book and you were a dancer, you were a good dancer. Like if you had been allowed to pursue that, who knows? Maybe you would have been a ballet dancer or an Alvin Ailey dancer, or you were a singer in church. Like you had so many talents that just were not acceptable and squashed.
Yeah, it's really interesting because when I first went to college, when I first tried to go to college at the University of Akron, I did take a dance class. I took a ballet class, and I was really excited. I remember being really excited to take this class. And I bought like the shoes, and like I think I bought like the spandex tights things, and
the dancer's belt.
Yes, I bought the dancer's belt
from Capizio. I may have done that too. I don't know.
You seem to know a lot.
Yeah.
I went to the class and I looked inside and I saw, the people in the class, the young men and women in the class. And I for some reason, I turned around and left. Like, I think I heard, like all the voices in my head at once of like how this wasn't anything for a Black man to be doing. And I turned around and I left that class and I didn't go back. And I very much regret that because, who knows what could have happened. But, it's, you can't live in regret either, Do
you feel like you're making up for lost time?
In a lot of ways I do, because right now I'm 51 years old. I feel like a lot of my time was wasted just being drunk and high all the time, If I could have those years back, that would be great. But unfortunately, time doesn't work that way. And we get on with the best that we can, So I have my writing and I have, other things that I'm doing. And those are the things that make me happy now. If I tried to put on a dance belt now, it would be unfortunate.
Well, I think you should.
Oh my gosh.
I wanted to dance, and I danced in like really little, I would do like talent show dances to like My Prerogative and
Nice.
Around the Way Girl. And that was like until I realized like you can't do that anymore. Right. And then it all went into the closet.
Right.
And then in my junior year of high school, I finally got up enough courage to do dance because PE is like terrifying and I wanted to. And it was the highlight of my high school experience was taking dance with one other boy named Beethoven and me and all girls. Yeah. And it was incredible. And it stayed with me to this day. I'm still friends with people from dance productions at Skyline High School.
Nice.
Yeah. But I remember that feeling of just terror when putting on like a dance belt and performing for like 2,500 kids in the auditorium in flesh toned like tights, you know?
That sounds amazing.
I mean, it was, but also like, I was like, I'm not doing it. I'm doing it anyway. So when you was writing this book cathartic for you, like what was it like when you wrote a chapter about, oh my God, I mean, literally any of them? What was that like?
Well, I mean, I think for me, I think that I'm writing most effectively when I am actually feeling the thing that I was feeling at that time. Like if I'm writing about the past and I'm writing about myself, like if I was, sad, I tried to make myself feel sad. If I was embarrassed, I try to get to that point of embarrassment again. So it was cathartic. It was, there's a lot of things in the book that I initially didn't want in there that I thought, okay, that's too much. But then I just let it ride. And, it hasn't been as devastating as I thought it was going to be.
Right. Were you afraid about hurting people or, family members or people you knew by exposing or telling your truth in the book?
Yeah, I was. I've been very fortunate that, well, I can't say nobody is upset, but most of the people in the book are fine with being in the book the way that they're portrayed. Like my mother was, of course, I was worried about what she was going to think. But
I mean, everybody wants their mom to listen to them being high on cocaine walking through a bathhouse.
Exactly. I think she probably skipped that part.
Some things are just universally gay, straight, white, black. Like you know what I mean? It's there and you can talk about it, but maybe not with your grandparents reading it,
Exactly. But my mother has been fine with it. And we've had, some good talks, after the book came out and after she read it. My family in general is good with it. But those are the people that I was most worried about. Anybody
I want to
else?
know about, like, as a reader, your you touched about your mom and you also have a brother and sister. What was it like for them to hear your voice about kind of your shared experience?
For them, we haven't talked that extensively about it. I know that I have talked with my brother about it, and he's been great. We've actually gotten to know each other a little bit better since the book came out, I think. My sister is thrilled for me. I mean, she's just a really great person and has always been a cheerleader of mine, regardless. I mean, she's one of the first people I came out to. So her reaction has been about what I expected. My mother, we still have still have a ways to go. She doesn't understand everything, but she is happy for me and proud of me. And, that's really kind of what you want from your mom.
What do you think if your dad were here? What do you think he would have thought of all of this?
I've thought about that. I have no idea. Absolutely no idea. And, I don't know. I think maybe we would have to have a long talk. That's all I can say.
Mm-hmm. Do you find that you bring everything that you've gone through and certain like idiosyncrasies and patterns that you've been handed down into your relationships?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I haven't been in a relationship for a very long time. You mean like intimate, like romantic relationships?
That's what I was thinking, but it probably applies to everything. peel it back. But yeah, that's what I was kind of thinking is you kind of, your roadmap, your blueprint is given to you at a very young age.
Yeah, I don't know. I think, I've not had a relationship, as I say, in a long time. And I'm not really looking for one. I used to look for them all the time. It was paramount in my head to have, a boyfriend. I wanted one so bad. And when I didn't have one, I would go looking for, when I would lose one, I would go looking for another one. I think that probably is telling. But right now in my life, I'm very happy being alone.
Well, that means you're going to find someone. Whenever you have that energy out in the world, it's like,
That's what everybody says. I don't know. I mean, I've not been a good partner for anybody that I've been involved with, and I think that is, I think that's because of addiction. I think that's because of low self-image. I think that's because of a lot of things. Luckily, I'm still friends with people that I've been in relationships with, and we make much better friends. And particularly now that I'm sober, and I can reflect on my past behavior and recognize what I did wrong and apologize for that. My goal also in writing this book was to try to be a better person, because I wasn't for a very long time.
Okay, I wanted to ask you about, speaking of relationships, it's so cringy because when you met the French guy, he objectified you. He wanted you to be his fantasy of what, a Black man would be for him. And your basketball moment, it sounds like I had a really sad childhood. I was the only boy in PE in like the 7th grade who couldn't get 13 baskets in like 5 minutes. And everyone watching. And then the girls who were doing the tally lied for me, and then they got caught cheating. So it was, anyway, I was watching that when you were playing basketball with him, like, oh my God, this is like, so like, I know that feeling. But do you have a problem being objectified by people sexually? I would love to be objectified by someone sexually. Please objectify me. Make me your fantasy, but
Objectification, not all objectification is created equal, I think part of sexuality, there's a bit of objectification there, like you are enamored of someone's body, but I certainly people you want to be seen as attractive, obviously. Objectification to the degree in terms of like, I talked to I was speaking with a friend of mine who is Asian who read the book, and he told me a story of how he accepted a date from a white guy to come over to his house and have dinner. And he went over to the house, and this white guy in his house had all this like Japanese art and all, like all this, like his whole decor was, quote unquote Asian. And that gave him pause. That kind of thing is worrisome, because somebody is then imprinting this idea of what you are onto you. Much as the guy in the book did, that's a different kind of objectification. Because
it's a fantasy and it's not reality. Like porn is objectification.
Well, this is sort of like we're getting into like fetishization,
Right?
Nobody wants that.
Are you sure?
Unless you're being paid for it,
I don't know. I feel like some people, but maybe it's not based on race, and that's where it feels different. But right. I feel like some people would like to be someone's fetish, right. but it doesn't have that extra layer of not being white in America, probably.
Right. Because, I think the person who fetishizes your race isn't into you at all. They could care nothing about you as a person, and maybe that's your thing, like sexually, and there are people who get paid very well to do that kind of thing for people. Maybe go to them if you have like some sort of like racial thing. But objectification, again is, it's part of being attracted to people, but if it overtakes the reason why you're attracted to someone, then I think that, and for me, I would not want that in my life.
Well, it's kind of selfish. It could, because it's all about the person, the other person.
Right.
Like you were saying, and less to do with who you are.
Right. It seems to be the case, my Asian friend, that sounds so stupid to say, my Asian friend, but the friend who told me about this experience, said to me, I couldn't get out of there, fast enough because, he had been there before, and it's a really a no-win situation for the person being fetishized.
I wanted to talk to you about the boy-girl shirt. It's so cute that you thought it could almost pass. It was a girl's shirt at the store, and you wanted your mom to buy it for you, and you were like, "Yeah, it's on the spectrum. It could almost be a boy's shirt."
Mm-hmm.
When we were growing up, everything was under this one umbrella of gay. If you were non-binary, if you were queer, it was just all known as gay. And now there's this kind of gray scale of identity that's out there. Like, there's a gray scale of sexuality. There's pronouns. What do you make of all of that?
I think it's great. I mean, I am learning myself, as you say, when I was young, it was just gay and straight, and then bi came along, and that was it. You were one of those three things. And it was, him or her, depending upon maybe how you looked. But we, as gay people, we've always kind of played with pronouns a little bit. What I find is that my students, I was teaching freshmen earlier this year, first year students, and they taught me a lot about, I learned more from them than, I have in my entire life about the gradations of gender, and how gender is a construct and sexuality can be fluid. I mean, I say more power to them. I think that and more power to us in general. I think that when we were young, I remember, people saying that gay was just a phase. I remember people believing that it's just a phase you're going through, or it's because you have, a domineering mother and a submissive father, or just all kinds of,
or
like,
no father,
or yeah, exactly. Like all kinds of like weird, diagnoses of what was wrong with us. And if we would just do this or that, we would be okay again. I think the same thing is going on now. There are people who don't understand it, who think that there are, it's a phase, or it's, because of some, psychological condition that they've come up with. I think that, older gay people, we need to take a step back and realize that, maybe we didn't do all the work, that there was to be done when we were marching in 1992 or whenever. So yeah, I'm still learning, and I'm grateful that I have the opportunity to learn.
I've had to take a step back because some of it I'm still holding on to my 1990s youth gay.
Yeah.
And it's funny to talk about people in a certain way, or to have those kind of archetypes and stereotypes, and then having to realize that, I'm outdated. I'm like, oh, even like heterosexual teenagers are breaking, like you said, or my nephews will talk about something in a way where I'm like, they don't have the hangups that we do.
Yeah. Yeah. And I hope it continues. I hope it continues in that way. I hope fewer and fewer people are hung up, again, I have a friend whose daughter has taught me a lot about, the way that they are now thinking about, the way that younger people are now thinking about gender, and and sexuality and all these things. And, and you have to kind of fight the urge to be resistant to it, I think, because it's not what you were raised with. I mean,
well, do you ever wish that you were born today so that your life, you wouldn't have had so many years of repression and rejection?
That's a hard thing to gauge, because then I wouldn't be me. And, I kind of like being me right now. I think in general, I would like to be over wishing that I was anybody else, born at a different time or born in a different place or born under different circumstances. I think that those days, I would like those days to be over for me. And, because I am who I am. And like you said, I wouldn't do it over at this point, because I wouldn't have the life that I have now, mostly because of my friends, I like the people who are around me now.
I don't know. Yeah. Wow. I wish I could hold that around with me as, and it's part of my brain. I know that to be true.
Yeah.
But through my life, like living in the moment, I'm competitive. I, look at myself in the mirror and wish I could change things.
I still do that.
More money, more thing, more, it's not a place that I live in a lot, but it's a place I would like to be.
I watch myself, getting older. I think that's always a shock, when you look in the mirror and you're like, how did this old man get in there? Those things, of course, those are constant struggles. But as far as
the need to feel sexy because you want to attract a mate,
I just kind of want to not look like, really bad. I just kind of like, as far as comparisons go, I am guilty of comparing my current body to my former body, my current face to my former face. I don't know that I necessarily want to attract a mate. I just want to look good enough so that I feel good. I know that sounds cliche. I know it sounds not believable, but I think that's kind of where I am. I don't need anybody to be drooling over me anymore.
This reminds me of a quote in the book that stuck with me. And you said you were in Pittsburgh referring to a local gay bar that you had frequented a lot. And you said, I spent too much time at a place that no longer exists for something that I still haven't found. Was that a bigger metaphor than just the bar in Pittsburgh?
Probably. When I used to go to that bar, I was looking for what we just were talking about, somebody to just be so into me. I was looking for this acceptance that was really, all about healing me when that acceptance, that kind of acceptance doesn't have the power to do that, So I was pretty, neurotic about it. Like I would go to that bar all the time and it was never enough. I was almost as addicted to the bar as I was to, drugs and alcohol. And when I say,
did you meet people that you would date from the bar?
Did I ever? Yeah. Oh yeah. But not for any length of time, really. I mean, I would definitely meet with somebody and like we would pal around for a few days, a few weeks and call it dating. But it still feels, and I was desperate, I was desperate for somebody to quote unquote love me. And I did not find it in those places. I have found it subsequently, but not in the form of, romantic love. I have found it in the form of, friendships and getting acquainted with my family. And maybe that's why now I'm not, gagging for a boyfriend, because I do feel somewhat fulfilled in terms of my personal relationships.
You're in a relationship with yourself.
Oh God, that sounds so like self-helpy. It sounds so goop, so Gwyneth Paltrow goop.
Right. Well, the people who say that, they're actually not. They're still going to that bar every night looking for love. It's just on Grindr. I know that. So I've been, I'll say research, but stalking you because, I knew I had this interview coming up. So I watched your Instagram live the other day and I've read some of the articles and you're funny.
Am I?
Yeah. I think you have a sense of humor, let's say, or whatever. What sides of you are not represented in the book? If any, do you feel like?
I feel like, I'm pretty silly, whereas I think the book is funny, in a lot of places. Like I'm fairly silly, and that's something that comes out with my friends. They know exactly how to tease me, and I know exactly how to tease them. I what else? Like I'm not. I don't know. I think just the silliness. Sometimes I try to put that in my writing, but I don't know that it always comes through. But I'm kind of goofy.
Yeah, no, it's there. It's just not the dominant trait, I would say, in the book.
Yeah, yeah.
Because so much of it is so, for me, was so heartbreaking.
You think?
Oh, I think the Project Girl broke my heart thinking about that. I mean, burning down your house. I mean, just think that was so sad, and then nobody talked about it. Or
right. I think that.
Oh my
I don't
God,
know.
be getting picked up from the school dance by your mom. It's all stuff that makes you, and it's not that I think it's heartbreaking because I am projecting because while the circumstances are different, we've all had those moments where you just feel humiliated or defeated.
Yeah.
And it brings that up for the reader.
Yeah. I mean, I can see that, but well, I don't want to give away the ending, and we shouldn't. But I think that I think that it's not all, gloomy and doomy. I think that, and I'm also gratified to hear that you say that it was, that you had a connection with those kinds of moments, because, that for me is becoming more and more of what the book is about. It's becoming more and more about, I hope people, as I said earlier, I hope people can maybe see themselves in the text, or see somebody maybe they know in the text. And maybe that kind of recognition will spark a real human interaction between people.
Everybody knows some gay in their family, whether they're willing to admit it or not.
Yeah, I think so too. And it's not necessarily even gay people. I mean, I have had, I was really shocked to find a lot of heterosexual men reaching out to me to tell me that they've had similar experiences, because they weren't, the archetypal, guy or man. And, so in that way, I hope that, the book touches a lot of people.
I mean, I played double Dutch.
Oh, so did I.
And I was good at turning. I didn't turn doubles. So I had real, I had a real foot in the game.
Yeah, literally. Literally. I played double Dutch. I played with girls, when I was a boy, and everybody was worried because they were like, he plays with girls too much. But for me, the girls just had the more fun games,
I'm still more comfortable with girls than heterosexual men in some way.
I don't know that I'm more comfortable with any particular group now. I just know who I'm not comfortable around, but it's not a particular group. But you can kind of get the...
There's no one scarier when I was a child or now than a redneck. I don't care what you say. They're really frightening.
I had a friend who was gay. Unfortunately, he passed away. But he was gay, and he was a queen, and he was also a redneck. He would define himself as a redneck. And he was great. So, you can't paint everybody with one brush,
No.
So I try to meet people. I try to meet people and meet them on their terms, and If I don't like the energy they're giving me, then I just back off.
What's your favorite Luther Vandross song?
I think it's probably "A House Is Not a Home," which is a really, really moving ballad.
Yeah.
Or "Bad Boy Having a Party" is another one.
Oh, it's so good.
It's such a good track.
What about "Creep"?
Yeah, that's a good one. There's really there's so many to choose from. I think if I had to choose a favorite, I think it would depend on what mood I'm in.
Don't you think he had the best voice, the most golden velvety R&B voice of all time?
He was a genius. Like his voice is amazing. I even like, he's like singing background on a David Bowie song.
Yes.
Young Americans. And I listen to that song just so I can hear him sing the background track or the background part. He was amazing. And
did they talk about that in 20 Feet from Stardom?
I don't know.
Did you ever see 20 Feet from Stardom?
I saw 20 Feet from Stardom. I remember the woman who, I think Luther Vandross, she was Luther Vandross's protege. I remember her talking about him, but I don't remember him being in the film. It was a long time ago.
Yeah, I've seen something where they had him in the studio and with David Bowie, and then another time with Shaka Khan doing background for David Bowie, I think.
Yeah, he was incredible. He was incredible.
Moving along, you said, this is kind of random now, but when you had that moment with, speaking of rednecks, with the racist heckler, and you kind of had enough and were, talking back, and you said, does running only make things worse? Do you feel now, like where you are in your life, like, does running only make things worse? Should you stand there and just take your ass kicking, if even, go down swinging, other than just running away?
Well, I'm in a real big choose your battles place in my life. There are some people who unfortunately will not be convinced to not be hateful, no matter what you do, and I think that you have to come to a point where you recognize that and back away. I really just try to choose my battles, and as a writer, you're battling all the time. There's always somebody who isn't going to like what you have to say. Like I write for the Washington Post now, and in the opinion columns.
I've read them.
I feel like you could write the most innocuous opinion, like I like ice cream, and somebody will, send you hate mail because you like.
What about sherbet?
Yeah, exactly.
Then you didn't even talk about frozen yogurt. So
exactly. So that's where I am. It's like, choose your battles. I have come to a place, there was a time in my life when I was very angry and I wrote some very vitriolic things, and enjoyed fighting with people on, social media. That time is gone. That's also pointless. The only thing it serves is, to get my blood pressure up and to make me feel upset for a whole day,
But you did feel like going and addressing Dave Chappelle.
I did address the Dave Chappelle thing.
Did he ever get back to you?
No, Dave Chappelle does not care what I think. Dave Chappelle is doing all right, and I got a lot of feedback from that, and but again, as I say, you can write anything, like the sky is blue, and somebody will attack you for it, and unfortunately, that's kind of where we are discourse-wise in our culture with social media.
Well, is that because they want to be seen, and you answering them makes them feel seen?
I don't answer them. I don't know why people do that. Like, it's really interesting. Like, I won the Kirkus Prize a couple of weeks ago.
Yes.
And the local news did a little story on me. I wasn't involved in the story. They just used the clip from the ceremony. And a friend of mine sent it to me. And in the comment section, somebody wrote something nasty. With just from me accepting like an award. They didn't know who I was and, whatever. And then I'm pretty sure that same person did a deep dive into the internet and found my email address and sent me a horrible email. I don't know if that person wants to be seen. I don't know what motivates that person. I know that it's, that person's probably generally not happy, and they want to be miserable. So what use is it of me to, respond to that in any way? It's just, I don't want to go down those rabbit holes anymore of fighting with people who are determined to dislike and disagree with you.
Oh, wow. You're better than me. I'd be at least even thinking in my mind for half a day what I would tell them. And,
I just try to let it go.
So you won the Kirkus Award in nonfiction. First of all, congratulations. It's so cool. Your first book, what are you going to do with the $50,000?
I am probably just going to buy ice cream.
What
because
kind?
I like it's. I like vanilla bean. I'm a real sort of simple person. I don't.
You're not going to splurge on anything?
No. I have student loan debt. There's a few things that I want to do to just sort of, fix my life. I'm real safety minded, I think, when it comes to those kinds of things. I spent a long time, I'm not frugal, I don't think, but I'm cautious. So, maybe splurging will happen later. I think I might get a massage. I think that might be the big thing I spend.
I think you should. Why do you live in Pittsburgh? I mean, you were equal distance. I looked on a map from Pittsburgh and Cleveland, which, by the way, that could be a toss-up. Why aren't you in Philadelphia or New York City? I'm not dissing Pittsburgh. I just am curious as what brought you to Pittsburgh, which I know is having like a hipster scene and art and all of that.
I moved to Pittsburgh because when I did not do well when I was very depressed, and I was very scared that the people in my hometown would find out that I was gay. And Pittsburgh is the closest, or not the closest, but it was a city where I knew no one. And I remember, and this is why I chose it, and I'm telling you this, and I don't think I've told anybody this.
Ooh, exclusive.
But when I was in high school, I was in the marching band. And one time we got to come to the big city and march. Our band played at a Pittsburgh Steelers game at what was then called Three Rivers Stadium. And I remember it was, I think, my first time in like a big city, and I was so like wide-eyed and like my mouth was hanging open. I thought, wow, this is great. I want to live in a city. And then, I remember, going back home and all that stuff happened, and I was in a severe depression. And the first place I thought that I should go was Pittsburgh, because I had been to Pittsburgh before with the marching band. And I got here and I met a bunch of people. I made some friends and I stayed.
Is it your forever home, or are you going to move to New York?
I used to want to live in New York when I was young, but I think a lot of people do. Right now I look at it and I'm like, that's just way too expensive.
That's true.
And, I don't know what the future is going to bring. Right now I'm just in Pittsburgh and I'm writing, and I don't know. I don't have any plans to move. I will be moving to California next year for a little while.
Where?
I will be living in the Bay Area.
Where?
Berkeley.
Oh, I'm from Oakland.
Ah, there you go. I'm going to be teaching.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I'm going to be teaching at a school in Moraga as a writer in residence. So that'll be a little experience outside of Pittsburgh. But after that, I'm coming back.
Wow. I love that.
Yeah, I think it'll be fun. A little adventure.
I think, if it already hasn't, that your book's going to be made into a series. But if it is, or when it's going to be made into a series, who would you like to play you?
Dave Chappelle. No, no, I don't know. I never thought.
By the way, not a bad choice.
I don't know.
Here's what I would say about Dave Chappelle for 1 second. You wrote that to him knowing that to me, that he is a good person, that if you thought he was someone who was just making jokes at the expense of others with no conscience and not a good guy, you wouldn't waste your time being like, you're doing this and you let the bad guys kind of joke win and be in on it with you. I think you wrote to him as somebody knowing that he is not a bad person.
I don't know that anybody is like a bad person.
Trump is a bad person.
Except for Donald Trump.
Right. I mean, there are bad people. There are some people who are, this is me, I'm like all or nothing. Yeah, there are motherfucking bad people out there.
Yeah, you're right. But I wrote that because I just wanted a different perspective to be out there. And I wanted to speak, to the people who do have a different perspective on the things that he's saying. But, at this point, he said that he's willing to meet with, transgender activists and sit down and talk. So who knows what's going to happen?
Because I don't think he's a bad person. And I think that that's why it's worth having a conversation with him. He's not the person you were talking about who there's nothing you can say or do that's going to change their opinion.
I hope it goes well. I hope that he does meet with them, and I hope it goes well, and I hope he comes out with some new insights.
I hope he comes out as trans. So anyway, who's going to play you in the series?
Oh my God, should I flatter myself? I don't know. Daniel Kaluuya, I love that guy. I think he's so handsome. Yeah, that's who I would pick.
Okay, I was thinking like younger Denzel Washington would be. I mean,
good. Daniel Kaluuya looks nothing like me, he's so handsome. He's so handsome that I would like him to play me.
The last thing I wanted to ask you before we get into a little game is, what's your relationship with crying now?
I do it probably. Well, the last time I did it is when I won the Kirkus Prize. It was just a big old mess. I was I wasn't just crying. I was super crying. My relationship to crying is
people want to watch it the moment that you won. It's pretty thrilling to see.
My relationship with it now is it comes when it comes, and I always feel better afterwards.
Have you cried nearly enough?
I have cried. No, I still haven't cried nearly enough. Like, I think that there's probably more crying to come in the future. But there's also more laughing and more, more good things as well. So, I don't have an adverse relationship to crying anymore. I don't stop myself. And I think now it just sort of comes, naturally. Because before I think I was so sort of stifled that I couldn't even muster tears. But now I feel like, it just comes when it comes.
That's great. Do you have time for a game?
Sure.
Okay. All right. Your favorite song of the year?
Oh, God. Do I have a song for this year that I like? Oh, okay. I don't even know if it's from this year, but I really like Say So by Doja Cat.
Okay. Good one. Favorite old school song or song of all time?
Oh, that's a big one. That's a lot. It depends again on my mood. If I'm in a melancholy mood, it's got to be "Song to the Siren" by This Mortal Coil. I think it is.
Okay.
You don't know that. You're too young.
No. I have very, very limited genre of music that I know. Okay. And I don't know anything else outside of it.
Okay. Well, This Mortal Coil has a song called "Song to the Siren." It's very emotional that I like.
Okay,
but
I'm gonna look
if I'm happy, it's got to be Roger Troutman and Zapp, "Do Wah Diddy."
Okay, I know that.
There you go.
Favorite diva?
Paul Lynde.
I don't know who that is.
Paul Lynde?
No.
Oh, you got to Google Paul Lynde. PaulLynde. Paul Lynde. Paul Lynde was a comedian in the 1950s and 60s. So flamboyant, for lack of a better word. Paul Lynde never said he was gay, but everybody just knew Paul Lynde was gay. He was the center square on the Hollywood squares for a long time.
I see an old white man when I just Googled it.
Oh yeah, Paul Lynde was he was something else, man.
Paul Lynde is a diva?
Oh yeah, either him or Little Richard.
Okay.
I'm expanding our definition of diva.
Yeah.
I'm expanding it. But if you want like a traditional diva, Millie Jackson.
Oh, okay.
You know Millie Jackson?
Yes, but
Okay.
not very well.
Yeah, get into some Millie Jackson. Like she'll rock your world.
Do you like Sylvester?
Yeah, sure.
That's who
Not
I've
as-
been really into
not-
Sylvester lately.
Yeah, Sylvester's pretty cool, but not as cool as Millie Jackson in my humble opinion.
What's the last song you sang to yourself?
Oh gosh. It's probably something that I heard, like that I was playing around the house. It might have been Super Bass by Nicki Minaj.
Okay. What's the cringiest song on your iPhone or on your phone?
Well, I don't know if it's cringy, but it's old. It's probably Last Dance by Donna Summer.
Oh, that's not cringy.
Yeah, it's not really. I don't know if I have anything cringy. I do like a bit of the Carpenters every once in a while.
Okay.
Yeah. I can't remember that song. That song.
That's out of my wheel. I don't know that. Out of my world.
Okay.
My world is old school hip hop.
Oh, okay.
Like 90s and on, or 80s, 90s on, and then it stopped in the 2000s. It just stopped.
You know what I've been listening to is Chub Rock.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Treat Me Right or Treat Him Right. Yeah, that's a good song.
Love. And then it's like R&B. Any R&B, it can start from, the 60s till now. And then like black gospel music. And those are the three genres I know. And I don't know any other genre of music.
Mahalia.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
What is the last book you read?
The last book I read is called Hola Papi by John Paul Brammer, which he is an Hispanic gay man who has a memoir out called Hola Papi. And I read it because he and I are going to be meeting and doing an in conversation in Florida in a couple of weeks. So I wanted to read his book, and it's good.
Oh, cool. My next one you already answered. What are you going to splurge on with your Kirkus Prize Award? You're going to get a massage.
Yeah, I'm going to get a massage.
Best place for oysters?
There's a place in Pittsburgh called Cobra.
Okay.
And it is a Korean barbecue, and they have amazing oysters.
Yum. Person you were most surprised to learn had read your book?
My brother.
Really?
Yeah.
That's sweet.
And I'm still not entirely sure he's read the whole thing. I think he's read parts of it, but the fact that he even picked it up and held it in his hands is very surprising to me.
And
my brother is my brother is very conservative and very religious, so I didn't think he would pick it up at all.
Wow.
Yeah.
Anyone famous or who you didn't know who you learned had read your book?
Yes. Why am I blanking on her name? Victoria Beckham.
Oh. Well, that's major.
Yeah, she it was on her Instagram. And I was like, wow, Victoria Beckham knows who I am.
How did she find out about it, I wonder?
No idea.
I learned about it it was in the New York Times.
Yeah.
I think you answered this, but who's your Hollywood crush?
Daniel Kaluuya. I have a lot of them.
Okay. Favorite city, domestic or foreign?
Oh, I really liked Paris.
Very,
very much. But I mean, St. Paul de Vence was great too. But I think Paris, it's so electric and alive, and it was just this time of discovery for me.
Destination you haven't been to and want to go?
I think I'd like to go to Morocco. I don't know why. I just feel like I have a friend who went there and she had a really great time. And so, yeah, I think I'd like to go there.
Morocco's incredible. Just don't go in the summer. It's like 120 degrees.
Oh, that's when I like it.
Oh.
I like
Some
hot
like
weather.
it hot. Okay.
Yeah.
That's real hot. Last question. Do you have any phobias?
I have thalassophobia.
What is that?
And I have leprophobia. I am afraid of thalassophobia is underwater. I'm afraid of deep sea stuff. And I also have submechanophobia, which I'm afraid of underwater objects. Like if a statue is underwater or a sunken ship. I have leprophobia, which is a fear of rabbits. Oh yeah, I got tons of them. We could go on all day.
A fear of rabbits.
Yeah, I'm afraid of rabbits.
But how the hell would you know if an object was underwater? You're just like, as I was, swimming in the ocean, I saw a Statue of Liberty memorabilia.
Well, the thalassophobia and the submechanophobia work hand in hand to just sort of keep me out of deep water, period.
Okay.
Yeah. So like, you ever see like just a deep body of water like that it freaks me out to think about what's under there.
It's the opposite because I have that same thing with outer space.
There you go. It's the opposite. I don't have any problem with outer space, but underwater, it's creepy.
Wow. You learn something new every day. Brian, I just, again, I feel like I could talk to you forever. And you have such a nice voice.
Thank you.
I want to thank you for writing the book. I also feel like you have hundreds of more books in you that there's so many more things that I want to know about you. And that I think, that different avenues and just any story you have to tell, I'm here for it and here to read it. So
thank you. I hope you're right. I hope there are more books to come, and I really appreciate you having me. It's been fun. It really has.
Thank you so much. And everyone, you can get his book, everywhere, Barnes & Noble, Amazon. I actually read the actual book and did the audiobook because I wanted to hear it in your voice, and both are equally good. So, all right. Well, make sure you get your massage and let me know how it is.
All right. I will definitely let you know. Thank you. You too.
Bye.
Bye.